Hello Year 7, welcome to the feedback video for today's online lesson about reproductive organs. The aim of this lesson was to find out the parts of the male and female reproductive system and the functions of each part of these systems, and to recall where the male and female sex cells are made. So, to begin with, there were some questions from the live lesson we had on Wednesday. If you missed this lesson, you would find this work a little harder, but only one person got in touch with me when they were stuck and asked for help. So, well done to that person. You got a house point for being resilient and doing something productive when you needed help. In the live lesson, we talked a lot about cells, and we looked at two specialized cells called gametes. The male gamete is called a sperm cell, and the female gamete is an egg cell. The word gamete means an organism's reproductive cell or sex cells. Okay. So it says the gametes are examples of what? I've just told you that was cells. During the live lesson, you wrote down the function of the sperm and egg cell, and they both have the same function, which is to provide half of the genetic material, or the DNA, to make a baby in reproduction. Okay, and we talked in the live lesson, and you copied down a table that had the features of the sperm cell. Firstly, its tail, which is sometimes called the flagellum. This allows the sperm cell to move through the female towards the egg cell. To power the tail, they need lots of energy, and the energy is released by a chemical reaction called respiration, which takes place in the mitochondria. Sperm cells have more mitochondria than other cells, so they can make more energy. At the tip of the head is a part called the acrosome, which releases chemicals that help the sperm break through the cell membrane of the egg. And overall, you can see that the sperm cell has a streamlined shape, which makes it easier for the sperm to move through the reproductive system. In the live lesson, we also talked about the structure of the egg cell, which can also be called an ova or ovum if there is more than one. This slide asks you to label the egg cells, so well done for having a go at this task. I realised that I hadn't asked you to draw the egg cell in the live lesson, so if you were using your notes, this was a little harder. Starting with the outer jelly coat, which has many jobs, one of which is preventing more than one sperm getting into the cell at the same time. Chemicals in the jelly also start the reactions in the acrosome of the sperm so that they're ready to fertilize the egg. The nucleus, cell membrane, and cytoplasm should have been recognizable from the cell topic. What do we call it when a sperm cell fuses with an egg cell? When the sperm cell reaches the egg, the acrosome helps the sperm break into the cytoplasm. The nucleus of the sperm fuses with the nucleus of the egg cell, and this is called fertilization, and it's how half of your DNA from your dad mixes with half of your DNA from your mum. This is a diagram of the male reproductive system. The reproductive organs produce the gametes, the sex cells. The male reproductive system produces sperm cells, and sperm cells are made in the testes. The testes hang outside the body in a bag of skin called the scrotum. Their position helps to keep the sperm at the correct temperature to develop properly. After puberty, males produce sperm for the rest of their lives. When the sperm are released from the testes, they travel through sperm ducts, where fluids are added from glands. The fluids provide a source of energy for the sperm cells. The mixture of sperm cells and fluid is called semen, which leaves the body through the urethra. The tube also carries urine from the bladder, but never at the same time as the semen. The urethra runs down the middle of the penis, and the penis is also used to transfer the semen to the female vagina. The head of the penis is sensitive and so is protected by a covering of skin called the foreskin. This is sometimes removed for religious reasons or because it is too tight, in a process called circumcision. You need to know what each part of the reproductive system does, so if you would like to, you could pause this video here and copy out this table after your notes from the live lesson on Wednesday. This slide challenges you to use the diagram and the table to identify different parts of the system. The blue dot is on a testy. There are two, so you could put the dot on the other side of the diagram too. The red dot is on a gland. Again, there are two, so you could have had this on the other side. This was maybe a little harder. Colour in yellow the tubes the sperm pass through. They leave the testes in the sperm duct and then they move into the urethra. The sperm starts in the testes, passes through the sperm duct, past the glands, into the urethra, in the penis. So I've mentioned the answer to this a couple of times. Sperm are made in the testes. The testes hang outside the body in a bag of skin called the scrotum, and they hang outside the body to stay at a cooler temperature than the rest of the reproductive system. This allows the sperm to develop properly. The testes need to be 4 degrees cooler than the body temperature, but muscles in the body can pull the testes closer to the body if they get too cold, and relax to push them further away if they get too hot. Some fascinating facts on this slide for you. So men do produce sperm for the rest of their lives once they start, and they produce 100 million sperm cells a day, and that's a lot. To put that into perspective, the UK has about 67 million people living today, so just over the population of the UK every day produced in sperm cells. And in some countries, reproductive organs have been used as medicine to improve fertility. But this has no evidence that it works, and also it has contributed to some animals becoming endangered because too many of them are being killed. The man in the picture is holding a tiger penis, which was used in medicine for fertility. Okay, in females, each ovary contains small, underdeveloped egg cells. After puberty, egg cells start to develop, and one is usually released from an ovary every 28 to 32 days. A woman's ovaries stop releasing egg cells about the age of 45 to 55, a time known as menopause. After leaving an ovary, an egg cell enters an oviduct, or fallopian tube, as it is sometimes called. The oviducts are lined with hairs called cilia, and these sweep the egg cell towards the uterus. The uterus is where a baby will develop. It has strong muscular walls and a soft lining. The lower end of the uterus is made of a ring of muscle called the cervix. The cervix holds the baby in place during pregnancy, and the cervix opens into the vagina. So again, you need to know what each part of the reproductive system does. So if you would like to, you could pause this video here and copy out this table after your notes from the live lesson on Wednesday. Okay, this slide challenges you to use the diagram of the table to identify different parts of the system. The blue dot is on an ovary. There are 2, so you could have put the dot on the other side as well. The red dot is on an oviduct. Again, there are 2, so you could have put it on the other side. The yellow dot is over the uterus. List the parts that an egg would pass through on its way out of the body. So the parts an egg passes through on its way out of the body are as follows. Eggs begin their journey in the ovary. They travel through the oviduct, into the uterus, through the cervix, and out of the vagina. If a woman made an egg every 28 days for 35 years, so I did 365 days in the year divided by 28, told me that there was approximately 13 eggs made every year in a woman's life. For 35 years, 13 times 35 is 455 eggs in their life. Which organ makes and releases the female gametes, and how do they reach the uterus? So the organ that makes and releases the female gametes are the ovaries. They reach the uterus by moving through the oviducts, and they are swept along by tiny hairs called cilia. Now, slide 21 shows you a real-life picture of the female reproductive system, because up until now we've only looked at diagrams. So, could you recognize the parts from the diagram in real life? So I've labeled the ovary. I don't know, you can't see I haven't got a mouse, so you can't see my mouse. But I've labeled the ovary, I've labeled the oviduct, or the fallopian tube, and the uterus. So you can try and match those up with half of that diagram that we have just looked at. Okay, so asked if anybody had any questions. Nobody's had any extra questions yet, but if you have got some questions now that this video has explained the lesson in a bit more detail, please email them to me or send me a message on Google Classroom so that I can answer those questions for you. And then the last slide today asked you, it was thinking about thinking. So metacognition is something we often talk about in lessons. So things that some of you found easy: reading, nothing, everything, labeling diagrams, and learning new facts. Nothing and everything were not very clear answers. It didn't really help me know which parts, which content in the lesson you found easy. So we need to try and think about that. The second box asks for two things. So I'm not sure whether you thought that interesting and challenging were the same thing. You need to try and think about how you felt about the different aspects of the work. What was too hard? People said longer questions. These are a little more challenging because you do have to link several pieces of information together. Labeling diagrams. So I'm not sure if this was challenging because you didn't know what the labels were or because writing on the slide was challenging. We'll continue to practice thinking about our thinking in different ways. Please do get in touch if you have got any questions or you need any help. And I will see you in the next video.